you got to think about this as a very broad social problem. The other problem, of course, is we have a world economic depression. Don't ever forget it. We're sinking deeper and deeper into world economic depression. We have this Elizabeth Warren, the TARP, the bailout watchdog. She says most of these banks have all their derivatives, their toxic papers, still on the books because they were allowed to mark them to model, not to market. So they're going to hang on to them and pretend that they're worth something. That's the key to why Goldman Sachs pretends to be profitable. And we're headed now into a phase of commercial real estate bankruptcies, so like what we had in after the crash of 87, 88, 89, 90. You had, Olympia in York going bankrupt, a bunch of other big real estate cartels going bankrupt, and that led to Citibank already being seized by the feds in the early 1990s. So the next wave of the depression is coming in. It's not exactly clear exactly what form or exactly when, but I remain convinced this is certainly not over. So you cannot say we want the cornucopia of health care, but we're going to ignore the fact that we have bankrupt insurance companies and a bankrupt economy.
Let me take you back just a couple steps, though, Webster. What are these, you talked about them being privatized death panels from these insurance companies, and then earlier you spoke about how 15 to 40 are going to be the only people that they even care about. What are these things going to look like? I mean, what are these boards going to look like?
There's more than one death panel, Tim. See, the one death panel is certainly this. The jargon for this in Washington is MedPAC on steroids. There is an existing entity set up in the 90s called MedPAC, which basically sets guidelines what technologies ought to be used, what kinds of treatments ought to be offered. And then they come up with ideas about, the age cohorts that ought to get this and so forth, right, when it can be denied. The Congress has generally never accepted the proposals coming from MedPAC, so therefore they call it MedPAC on steroids. That would be a death board. That would be similar to this NICE that you have in the British National Health Plan. There's also under the stimulus there was passed, and maybe I won't get the name of this right, but they had about $2 billion in the stimulus for an Office of Medical Technology Assessment, which I think would also qualify as a death board. The other thing you have, the way that Obama wants to gouge Medicare is to say, I'm going to lower the Medicare reimbursements that we pay to doctors and hospitals. These have already been looted like mad by Bush, Mad Dog Bush the Younger, looted these things systematically for 8 years. And now Obama says, I'm going to go lower than Bush on these reimbursements. Now, that means the following. If a woman needs a mastectomy, she goes to the hospital and says, okay, I'm on Medicare. I need to have this operation. And the hospital is going to say to her, I'm so sorry, but the amount the government is now willing to pay under Medicare, thanks to Obama, is now below what it costs us to do it. So we're going to deny you that here at the hospital. We can't do it because we can't get by on what Medicare is willing to give us. And the doctor also will tell her pretty much the same thing. So there's another way you're going to ration care. Let me also point out, though, rationing by a board of government bureaucrats is, of course, genocidal. The rationing of the market is equally bad. A lot of people in this country have this idea that rationing by a bureaucrat is bad, but if it just means you can't afford it because the market says so, then that's your tough luck and you should go home. That's absolute barbarism, and that will lead to also death on a massive scale. That's why you have to insist health care is a right. It is a natural law right of the human individual, under God's law, we might even say, meaning if you don't define it as a right, it's going to just be a commodity. And then the commodity is, well, maybe you can afford that commodity or maybe you can't. And if you can't, tough luck for you. The free market has spoken and you're, on your way into the underworld and goodbye to you. That's not good enough.
But doesn't it seem like that's the system we have right now? I mean, I got this article in front of me right now. LA Sports Arena hosts health clinic of last resort, and 1,500 people, more than that, thousands actually lined up. They only took 1,500. But this 83-year-old woman who hasn't had teeth in years, she waited for, what was it, I think over 9 hours.
Yeah.
And when she got into the clinic, they're just like, nope, no false teeth for you. So, I mean, is it even a right at this point, Webster?
It should be a right. In other words, I'm polemicizing against people come out saying it's not a right.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin D. Roosevelt, in the Economic Bill of Rights, proposed in January of 1944 as basically what the GIs were fighting for, why you were going to risk your life going up to the beach in Normandy for a country that won't tell you that health care is your right. I don't know. So Roosevelt figured that part out, right? So he proposed a right to a home, a right to an education, a right to health care. Basically, it's about 8 points.
Mm-hmm.
So the right to the health care would be this is the thing that's missing. These are the 50 million who have nothing, either no insurance or maybe underinsured. 18,000 per year die, according to the Black Agenda report, which I think is accurate. So those are the people you see. That group that you're noting, the RAM, right, the remote area medical,
mm-hmm.
were founded to go to the third world, right, to the developing countries. And they've been forced now to give up some of their services in Guatemala and bring it back home. They were in Wise, Virginia, right here in southwest Virginia, right, Appalachia, coalfield. And they also got thousands and thousands of people. That's the reason that you need some kind of a program, because the private sector has let them down. The private sector has struck out as far as those people go.
Well, it is very alarming that RAM, again, best known for their work in the third world, is now here in what's becoming the second world, United States. It's the Infowarrior, back after this.